Behold, the great American omelet. Packed with hunks of raw vegetables, runny with cheese, wrinkled as an old man's backside, brown as an LA sunset, and ever so slightly disgusting. Now, I think the problem is that Americans assume that omelets need to be fussy. After all, they are French. The thing is we shouldn't be thinking France. We should be thinking Japan. Because if there's any food that embodies Zen, it is the omelet. Omelets are simple, but not necessarily easy. And they're a lot more about technique than they are ingredients. But don't get me wrong. I'm not saying filling is evil. But a properly prepared plain omelet is a miracle in its own right. And the novice omeletier would be wise to master its subtleties before attempting augmentations. Just as this gardener uses nothing more than a rake and patience to create beauty out of sticks and stones, so does the omeletier take only a pan, a spatula, and a little butter to convert this into good eats. Here you go. Nice job out here. Before we can contemplate the production of a world-class French-style omelet, we must first define exactly what a world-class French-style omelet is. For me, it means a combination of this and this. That's right. A smooth, rich, custardy interior encased in a golden, ever so slightly crisp exterior. A juxtaposition of unrelated forms, you say? I think not. After all, what is an egg but a custard ready to happen? And thanks to its unique fat and protein content, it toasts very nicely too. Now to get started, we will need 3 of these. Warmed for 5 minutes in hot, not scalding tap water. Now, the faster an omelet cooks, the more tender it's going to be. Since cold eggs have a longer thermal trip to take, starting with warm eggs makes good sense. Now, you'll never see this step mentioned in a French cookbook because the French don't refrigerate their eggs. Now, while these soak, we'll contemplate some hardware. The first thing you're going to need is a 10-inch non-stick aluminum pan, and excuse me. Hello?
Idiot! You must use a cured steel omelet pan. You must never cook anything else in it, and you must never ever wash it.
Who is this? I mean this.
Who do you think it is, you fuzzy-headed ninny-hammer?
I don't care what the voices tell you. You do not need a special omelet pan. But when purchasing the nonstick pan that every kitchen needs, you should keep an omelet's needs in mind. Now, fast heat absorption is key, so consider an aluminum pan rather than a steel or clad pan. Like a crepe, an omelet needs to slide, so look for the kind of smooth nonstick surface usually found on less expensive pans. You also want to steer clear of pans that have a distinct line between the bottom and the side. You want to look for something that's got a very gentle slope, almost like a bowl. Now, this is my favorite omelet pan, which I picked up at my friendly neighborhood restaurant supply store for a song. Of course, this is only one part of a binary system, the other part being a spatula. Etymologically speaking, spatula comes from the Latin spatha, meaning a flat, elongated instrument. From that, the Italians get spada, or broadsword, and from that, we get spade, as well as the term spay, which is not to say you should fix your cat with a sword, but I guess it would do the trick. The diminutive form of spatha is spathula, and that's where we get spatula from, meaning a small, elongated instrument. Which one is best for an omelet? Follow me. Hey, Debbie, how's the new gig going?
The coffee's terrible, this smock is polyester, and I'd rather punch you than this time card.
Time card? Well, we'll work that out later. How are the spatula tests coming?
Blades were tested for flexibility, staining, heat resistance, and overall design.
Really?
Come on. Plastic isn't flexible, so we ruled those out. Rubber's flexible, but it stains, cracks with use, sticks to many soft foods, and doesn't do too well in the high heat test. Silicone, however, doesn't crack or stain, and it can handle up to 600 degrees.
Excellent. What about the handle design?
Wood handles are strong, naturally insulated, but they warp, are hard to clean, and offer little ergonomic support. And they come off when you least expect it. Once this happens, food checks in.
And it doesn't check out. Yeah. So what's the solution?
This spatula is unique because the silicone blade extends to a long, easy-to-clean collar. It joins into an ergonomic, food-grade plastic handle whose long shaft lends the right support of balance and flexibility. The wide blade is perfect whether folding egg whites or frosting cakes.
Outstanding. So what you're saying is this is basically the only spatula I need.
I suggest 3. The wide blade, a narrow one to get into tight places, and this slightly concave model called the spoonula.
A spoonula? You gotta be joking, huh?
A.B., I never joke about my work.
Or about anything else, for that matter. Remember, crack on a flat surface like a saucer or counter to avoid driving shrapnel up into the egg. As for mixing, I like going with a nice big coffee cup because it's just the right size for the job and it's got a convenient carrying handle. As for the beating tool, I like using a fork rather than a whisk. Whisks tend to invite unwanted air bubbles to the party. Bubbles are bad because they act as an insulator, preventing the heat from finding its way quickly into the egg. The result, a rather dry foam. Not good eats. Ah, yes. Many omelet procedures call for up to a tablespoon of water per egg to be added to this mixture. There are a few times that I'll go along with that, but this isn't one of them. Nope, the only thing I am going to add are a few pinches of fine-grained salt. Alas, my beloved kosher flakes dissolve too slowly for this process. You know, one of the reasons that I think Americans make pretty onerous omelets, by and large, is because we work with recipe books that suggest that omelet making only involves 3 or 4 steps. Truth is, good omelet takes about 39 steps. Oh, relax. There are only 10 steps to making great omelets, and most of them are little teeny-weensy steps. Besides, we've done the first 3. We warmed the eggs, we seasoned the eggs, and we beat the eggs. Next, we have to heat the pan. As you practice your technique, you'll discover the right temperature setting for both your pan and your cooktop. For now, we're just going to start halfway between medium and high. No higher, or you'll make all toast and no custard, if you get my drift. Now, even a non-stick surface is pocked with tiny microscopic crevices and pores and, of course, some scratches. Eggs can pour into those and set, grabbing hold of the pan. Heat expands the metal, squeezing many of these openings shut. So always heat your pan empty for a few minutes before adding the eggs. How hot? Well, for those of you with a infrared thermometer, I'd say 325 to 350. For those of you that don't have nifty infrared thermometers, heat the pan until butter does this. That is, foam briskly. Now, some people endorse an oil-butter combo, the ideal being that the higher smoke point of the oil will prevent the butter from burning. But since it's the solids in the butter that burn in the first place, I'm not buying it. Okay, the best way to protect against burnt butter is to start with clarified butter, which has had all these solids removed, or to start with butter that has been softened just to room temperature. That way, the already melted portion of the butter won't have time to burn while it's waiting for the refrigerator hard remains to liquefy. Another argument for butter, besides taste and rapid browning, is the fact that butter will tell you when it's ready. It foams, it smells nutty, you cook. Now, once melted, we'll want to brush this butter around with a basting brush. Sure, you could just swirl the butter, but this allows you to cover a lot more area with a lot less butter and a lot less time. Now, we're ready for step 5, and it's a big one. Pour the eggs right into the middle of the pan and then stir vigorously with your silicone spatula for 5 seconds. Notice that I'm not so much moving the spatula around the pan as I am moving the pan around the spatula. That creates a more even curd. There. Now, as soon as a semi-solid mass of curd starts to form, we move to step 6, which I like to call swirl and sweep. Catchy, huh? We're basically going to lift the edge of the pan and swirl all the way around so that the excess liquid can pour off into the pan. There. Then we're going to use the tip of the spatula to basically wipe around the perimeter. That'll tidy up the round shape and push back the edge a little bit, which is important. We now arrive at step 7, which happens to be my favorite. Walk away. Do nothing for 10 seconds, okay? At this point, there is no amount of prodding, poking, or fiddling that you can do to make that omelet cook any quicker. In fact, messing with it now will probably only result in an omelet that's stuck to the pan. In other words, scrambled eggs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not really what I want today. If you do see the omelet start to jump up out of the pan at this point, like Mexican jumping beans, turn down the heat to medium-low. But this looks good. I would say that we are definitely in time for step 8, which is the, well, we'll call it the jiggle step. Basically, we want to make sure that the omelet's completely free of the pan. You wouldn't be able to do this in a really expensive Teflon pan because it would have too much texture. We now come to step number 9, the big finale, the folding and the plating. Lift up the far edge, snap the pan back towards you. As soon as you get there, use your spatula to fold over 1/3, thusly. Then change your grip from an overhand to an underhand and move to the plate. I like to brush just a little butter on the plate. Helps the omelet to slide out. Don't want it to bind up. And just ease the pan over. Yeah, not perfect, but nice. One of the things that I really dig about the tri-fold presentation is that it keeps the inside of the omelet nice and warm while I slather on a little more butter. Just a little. Why more butter, you say? Well, for one thing, it really tastes good. For another thing, it creates a suitable substrate for herbage, like some nice chives. Here we have a meal with 1,000 uses. Could be served alongside your favorite breakfast fare or in place of your favorite breakfast fare. Me, I just like to serve it up with a little side salad and a glass of wine and call it dinner. I also call it good eats. Speedy preparation and cheap ingredients make the omelet perfect for mass munching. But when the numbers of munchers mounts, we need to find a more manageable method. In this case, the blender. I like to go with 2½ eggs plus 1 tablespoon of water for every diner. Now, since I haven't seen any half eggs on the market lately, that means 5 eggs plus 1 ounce of water for every 2 diners. And if my math is right, that translates to 10 eggs and 1/4 cup of water for 4 diners, which is what we have here. Now would also be the time to add some seasonings and flavors. For instance, some salt. We'll say 2 heavy pinches. And if you wanted to get a little fancy with things, you could consider an herbal addition right now. For instance, basil gets along very, very nicely with eggs. Dill, ditto. Parsley, always a classic. Tarragon, surprisingly fine with eggs. And chives, always welcome to the party. Rosemary, not so much. Besides the fact that you might get a splinter in your tongue, it's just too resinous for eggs. Overpowering. Me, I'm going to go with a cluster bomb of chives, dill, and parsley. Bam! Last but not least, the water. Now, as I said, I don't normally advocate the addition of water when you're talking about eggs, but we're about to put some serious hurting onto these eggs, serious agitation, and the water will allow us to reduce the viscosity. The lower viscosity means that we're going to be able to heat the eggs faster. That means less bubble formation and less denaturation, either of which could wreak havoc on our omeleture. Now, since most eggs contain about 1.5 ounces, and we usually make an omelet with 3, that means we need a 4.5 ounce ladle. Now, check the temperature at 325, very good, and lube up with some butter. Nice sizzle, looks just right. There we go. Now, ladle in the goodness, right into the middle of the pan. There we go. And now the stir phase. Remember, moving the pan as much as we move the spatula. Very good. And now, the sweep. Stop. Just hold it there a second. Look, I gotta tell you right up front, even if you become the great Zen grandmaster of plain omelet making, somewhere along the line, somebody is gonna say, you gonna put some fillings in that? I'm sorry, it's going to happen, okay? You are going to have to deal with fillings, and now is the time to be thinking about it, okay? And you've got to remember this. Omelets have enough to do just cooking themselves without having to worry about cooking whatever you decide to stick inside of them. So, with the exception of cheese, which should be either grated, crumbled, or shredded, and fresh herbs, which obviously can be added directly to the batter, all added ingredients need to be not only cooked, but brought to room temperature, or better, they even need to be reheated. And don't just throw things in willy-nilly. Think through the combinations and try not to add more than 2 things at a time. For instance, grated Gruyere and sautéed mushrooms, or crumbled feta cheese with cooked and drained spinach. Or then again, there is my personal favorite, red and green peppers sauteed with onions and finished with Monterey Jack cheese. Yum. By the way, now would be the time to add it. When you're ready to add, sprinkle ingredients only over 2/3 of the surface of the omelet, facing away from you. There you go. Don't go overboard. Just a little sprinkle around will do. Well, maybe just a little more cheese because I like it. That leaves you 1/3 of your room to fold. Now do your snap back, flip over, change your grip, and move directly to the plate. There you go. For you. Oh, sorry. That would help, huh? What's the matter? What are you, the food police or something? Oh. You are the food police. Hey, nice wallet. Look, I know that technically speaking, we're not supposed to eat eggs until they're absolutely perfectly set inside. And odds are these are still just a little bit runny. But, you know, in my own defense, I will offer that you are more likely to get salmonella from your, well, heck, from your pet iguana than you are from this omelet. Of course, if you really are concerned, do what I do and use pasteurized eggs, available in the shell in most megamarts. See ya, copper! Well, you know what they say, practice makes perfect, and some of us just need a little more practice than others. You know, there is one omelet that doesn't require any practice at all. The Italians call it a frittata, and it distinguishes itself from a French omelet because it is flat rather than folded, and it is firm rather than creamy. And there's one other thing that's really great about it. Come on. Since frittata are flat, they're not nearly as fussy about fillings as French omelets. Excuse me. Come and get it! In fact, frittata are a lot like that other eggy favorite, the quiche. In other words, they are refrigerator Velcro. Whatever you got, it's good to go. Let's see. I have some roasted asparagus left over. What's this? Smells like ham. It is ham. Excellent. Some Parmesan cheese, always a welcome addition. Yeah, it's store-bought, so what? And herbs. Parsley, in fact. Where I got it from, I have no idea, but that ought to do it. Set your oven to broil. High if you've got it. Oh, and you're also going to need a pan, nice and hot. You'll notice that I have moved up to a different pan. I've got my 12-inch nonstick here, and I don't care really about shape in this case because I don't have to do any fancy folding, flipping, and plating, so to speak. So all I care about is a nice wide open space with plenty of Teflon. Now, the first job is we've got to get the vegetables heated back up. So I'm just going to dump everything in. I think this looks about right. How much filling you actually use depends on the pan and also depends on the type of ingredient you're using. Now, I like to see just kind of a single layer spread out on the bottom. That looks about right. If it was any tighter than that, the egg wouldn't be able to get in and set around it, and we just end up with scrambled eggs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Just going to let these cook till I know they're cooked through and hot. Now that these are good and hot, we are ready for the egg mixture. You're going to need to mix about 1 ounce of grated Parmesan cheese with 6 eggs and a little bit of black pepper. Thank you, Thing. Speedy little guy. Now, just going to pour this directly in, just like making a French omelet, only we're going to stop short of the fold. Just starting to firm up on the top, getting ready to move to the oven. Last thing I'm going to add, the parsley. Two to 4 minutes under the broiler will do it. Remember, we're looking for brown and puffy, not incinerated. Golden brown and delicious. Now, if your nonstick skillet really is, then this should slide right out onto a cutting board. For portioning, I prefer a pizza cutter. Just slide right on through. Depending on how many guests and how hungry they are, you can get 6 to 8 slices. Little dollop of sour cream finishes off the dish quite nicely. I hope that the last half hour has filled you with the fierce desire and considerable confidence necessary to create your own omelet. Now, if you find that you're full of the former but kind of lacking in the latter, why don't you try firing off a few frittata first, just to get your hand in before you attempt the more complicated French fare. And even then, remember, sure, the perfect French folded omelet may bring you to enlightenment, but in the end, even an imperfect practice omelet will really bring you good eats. See you next time.